Most men believe that the reason their life hasn't changed yet is simple. They think they need more motivation, more discipline, more inspiration, more confidence. But if that were true, every motivated man would already be winning. But you know that's not reality. But the real reason that most men stay stuck is much simpler than that. Their life is just comfortable enough not to force them to change. The bills get paid. There's food in the fridge. You have a couch, a phone, and something to watch tonight. And when urgency never activates, years, they quietly disappear. 5 years go by, and your life looks exactly the same. And that's why today, I want to show you something that I like to call the 4-shift reset. These 4 changes are what separate the men who stay stuck for years against the men who change their direction in life. And the important part is this, that each shift comes with real actions that you can start doing today. Let's start with the first one. And the first reason that most men never change their life is something that I like to call comfortable stagnation. Your life, it isn't terrible, but it's also not great. And this is what a typical day looks like. You wake up, go to work, and you handle pressure all day, and then you drive home tired. You sit down for a minute, open your phone, you scroll a little bit, you decide to watch something, and suddenly it's 10:30 at night. You don't even remember what you watched, but your night is already gone. And now you're tired, so you tell yourself that you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow will look the exact same. And that's not because you're lazy, it's because nothing in your life is painful enough to force you to want to change. Your brain, it's built to protect comfort, not to pursue growth. So if your current situation is stable enough to survive, so your brain stops pushing you to change it, which means that most men, they can live in a life that's just a little frustrating for 5 to 10 years. It says, we're already good enough. Don't risk anything. Imagine a guy who says he wants to start a side business. So he says, tonight, I'm going to work on that. And then he decides to sit down, gets on his phone, scrolls for a little bit, watches a few videos, and suddenly 2 hours has went by and now he's tired. So he says, I'll work on it this weekend. The weekend comes around, life happens, nothing gets built, and this cycle, it repeats itself for years to come. Not stuck enough to panic, but not growing enough to be proud. You have to create pressure on purpose, and the easiest way to do this is daily progress blocks. For example, every workday, 7:30 to 8:30, your phone's in another room, no TV, and you just have one focused task. You learning a skill, building that business, or just learning something for 1 hour. 1 hour might not seem like much, but consistency, it compounds a lot faster than intensity. And that's just 5 focus hours a week. See, most people waste more time than that just scrolling on their phone. But 5 focus hours a week can completely change your life in just 1 year. Because now, you're not just maintaining life, you're building it. Which leads us to the second shift. The second trap is believing that you have plenty of time. See, most men say things like this, I'll start next year. I'll start when things slow down. I'll focus later. But when something feels far away, your brain relaxes, it delays, it negotiates, because that urgency, it disappeared. And without urgency, effort, it just feels optional. Let's look at a New Year's resolution. January begins, people start feeling motivated, so they start working out. But just 2 weeks later, they skip a workout, then they skip another one. But why is that? Because their brain says, it's only January, I have the rest of the year. And right there, your urgency disappears. And once the urgency disappears, your discipline, it fades with it. And without urgency, your progress slows down. But here's the fix. You have to shrink the timeline. Stop trying to fix your life over the course of a year and just win this week. Pick one measurable target for the next 7 days. For example, you're going to go to the gym 3 days this week. You're going to work on a skill for 5 hours this week, or you're going to read 30 pages in a book this week. When the goal is only 7 days, your brain stops procrastinating because now there's a deadline that your brain can't ignore. And if you stack up enough of those good weeks in a row, that's how momentum builds. Now, if you're somebody that feels that you've been drifting away for years, but now you're suddenly ready to build structure in your life, make sure you subscribe to the channel because this channel was built for men who want real progress, not just motivation. Now, the third shift is something that almost everybody struggles with. And this is where most men lose, quietly, daily, and they don't even realize it. Negotiating with yourself. And one of the biggest hidden killers of progress is daily negotiation. You've heard this voice before. I'll start tomorrow. I'll skip today. I'll do it later. Every time that you negotiate with yourself, comfort wins. And comfort, it always sounds reasonable in the moment. And the more negotiation that you allow, the weaker your discipline becomes. Let's say you plan to go to the gym after work. You come home, You sit down and the negotiation starts. I'm tired. I had a long day. I'll go tomorrow. And that moment right there is where most goals die. But here's the fix. Stop deciding daily and start deciding weekly. Every Sunday night, plan out your week in advance. For example, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're going to the gym. Tuesday and Thursday are your learning blocks. Now all the decisions have already been made. Your emotions no longer run the schedule, and the negotiations have disappeared. The final shift is identity. So eventually, the real question becomes, it's not what do I want to achieve, but it's who am I becoming? Because identity drives behavior. For example, one man might say, I want to get in shape. So for him to skip a workout feels acceptable, while the next man says, I train, so skipping a workout, it just feels wrong because it conflicts with his identity. So here's the fix. You built your identity through evidence. So instead of saying, I hope I get disciplined, you say, I'm the type of man that follows through. Then you prove it through small actions. You finished the workout. You completed that work block. You keep your word to yourself. And every time you do that, you strengthen that identity. And once your identity changes, your standards changes with it. If you want to completely reset the direction of your life, then remember these 4 shifts. Number 1, create pressure. Number 2, shrink your timeline. Number 3, remove the negotiations. And number 4, build the identity. When those 4 shifts start happening, momentum begins. And once momentum starts, your life starts completely moving in another direction. But here's something that most people miss. None of these changes are dramatic. You don't quit your job tomorrow. You don't hit a huge reset on your life. You don't need a big burst of motivation, because what actually changes men is small structure repeated over time. 1 hour after work, 1 planned week. You keeping a promise to yourself. Now that doesn't feel impressive in the moment, but if you repeat those actions for the next 6 months, your life begins looking very different. You're stronger, you're more focused, more confident, because the biggest change is something even deeper. You start trusting yourself again. When you tell yourself you're going to do something and you don't follow through, you start to not believe in yourself anymore. But the opposite is also true, because every time you keep your word to yourself, your confidence grows stronger. Not fake confidence, the real confidence, the kind that comes from knowing, I do what I say I'm going to do. And once a man rebuilds that kind of trust within himself, everything else begins to improve. Your fitness, your money, your opportunities. Because disciplined men, they operate differently from the men who drift. So, if you feel like you've been stuck for a really long time, start simple. Pick 1 small weekly win, schedule it, and then execute. Then repeat that process next week, and that's how you'll get momentum in your life. And momentum is eventually what helps you change everything in your life. Now, if this video helps you pinpoint some areas where you might be slipping, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this channel, it was built for men who want structure, discipline, and direction, not just motivation.